Hi guys, welcome to our podcast. Today my guest is Jonathan Nodrick. Jonathan is CEO at Rollout, and he's also creative director and founder as well at Rollout. Welcome to the call, Jonathan.
Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, so tell us a little bit of what do you guys do at Rollout?
So we've been around for about 15 years. We started out as just a bunch of creative individuals who want to experiment with interiors, graphics, large format printing. Mm-hmm. And pretty quickly we started getting called. At the time, there wasn't a lot of people doing wallpaper for commercial interiors. And so we started getting calls from Microsoft and Mercedes-Benz and a bunch of large companies. We'd just gotten out of school, and it was kind of a path. It was experimentation, a bit of stubbornness, a bit of luck that got us to where we are today. Mm-hmm. But now we're doing a bunch of interiors for offices like Google. We did Karl Lagerfeld's hotel in Macau. We find that commercial interiors specifically, they need to infuse a lot of personality and impact into their spaces, and also convey culture for a company and their values, and connect people and give them sense and purpose in places. So we work collaboratively in a variety of ways with people. So they can come to us with artwork that they want printed. We can print that. We have a catalog of artists that we represent in their work. So we're kind of like a record label for commercial designers and artists, and we take their work and translate it into wallpaper. Mm-hmm. And we can also do full custom work where you come to us with an idea and we can help develop mood boards and execute it and get it installed and transform your place into something that, like office spaces specifically now are changing so much that, to have a spectrum of ideas on things that you can do in office spaces to help meet your agenda and what you're trying to achieve in that space. It's an interesting time for sure to be in this industry.
Yeah. So what are some of the major drivers behind this project, Jonathan? Is it cultural? Is it a team building? Or is it just trying to reflect certain image of the company? Is it brand building? What are some of the major initiatives behind this work?
Well, placemaking is a big thing. We did a bunch of work with WeWork, and in each city, they wanted to kind of reflect the city in their spaces. So they got local artists to design stuff, and we would print it with them. Or, we did work for them in London, UK. And so they wanted some imagery of London incorporated into it. So it's really, it all depends on the client, right? Some people, they want inspiration walls that motivate people. That is farther than just printing your mission and value statement on the wall. They want to translate that into visuals, which you might not need to be so literal with, right? It could be something that's subtle that reinforces what their values and hopes and ideals are, and that helps to, get everybody in alignment when they're in the space.
Mm-hmm. So, COVID changed everybody's business. One of the businesses changes is definitely downtown real estate or commercial buildings. How did that impact your business? Because nobody's in the office, and people are probably doing the work they wanted to do right now. So how did that impact your line of work?
Like everybody, we've had to pivot and keep pivoting. We're fortunate that, we seem to have a really lean team that's, small but mighty. We can still pull off big work, but we don't need huge spaces to do it. It was unfortunate because when COVID first hit, we were scheduled to do Shopify, like 8 floors in one of their office buildings. And they decided over time that they're going to cancel the project. We had a lot of projects on hold and deleted. We're still finding there's, at least 60% of the projects that we've quoted on are still up in the air, on hold. People are unsure when that bottleneck is going to uncork itself. I'm getting a sense that it's coming closer and closer, and when it does, there's going to be a tidal wave of work. So how COVID changed us is, I went into work one day, and one of the first days, it was during when non-essential business was about to be shut down. And, I thought at the time that we were a non-essential business. And I had one of the people working for me came up and said, well, what's our COVID plan? And I'm like, I don't even have a strategic plan, let alone a pandemic plan. I'm still working on my strategic plan. I didn't think about COVID. So, I said, if I had to decide right now, I would say we probably have to shut down and ride this out. But, give me some time. And it was on a Friday that this happened. And by the time I kind of, when I'm faced with big challenge, I need to walk away for a little bit and like walk through the park and sort my ideas out in my head and talk to some people about things. I'm not good with being put on the spot. And my mom and dad are both my mom's a social worker and my dad's a psychologist. And one thing I've learned from my mom is when she's got her back up against a wall and people are, demanding she makes a decision, she said, if the decision has to be made now, then it's no. But if you can give me time to think about it and like sort my ideas out, then it could be something different, and it probably will. But if you're going to pressure me, then it's a no. It's a hard no. So that was kind of where I felt I was. It's like, well, if you're going to make me decide, we're probably going to have to shut down. But coming back after a weekend of sorting my thoughts out and talking to some key people that are advisors to me, I said, I'm willing to give this a shot. We'll keep riding it out. We have a print partner that we work with, and they actually are an essential business because they're printing COVID stickers and wayfinding and signage and education. So, and most of our clients are architects and interior designers who were already kind of used to working remotely. So at the time, I thought we were going to have to, shut it down and be dead in the water. But over, the next couple of weeks, we realized we could still work remotely. We don't actually need a physical space, and we can still satisfy our clients' needs, the ones that are still, wanting to push ahead with projects. So that was, a significant learning experience. And, we're still here, so we're somewhat pandemic proof. Who knows how long this is going to go on for and the outcomes. But to learn that we've already set our business up to be that flexible and modular and to still deliver on time and for our clients, that was a great experience. Another way that COVID affected us is my lead designer, he was in Holland and he flew to Hong Kong right when they got locked down. And he ended up getting COVID early February. So I like to say that he was an innovator or an early adopter because a lot of people didn't even know what was going on then. But it was a challenging time because he kind of went dark. I knew he was in the hospital. He got out. But, it just the mental anguish of going through something like that, it was hard to hear from him. People didn't know where he was. And I think he just, disconnected and shut down. And that was a scary time. I was very concerned for him, but he's made it through, and he's one of the biggest players in our team right now. So I'm glad he pushed through and made it.
Yeah, nice. Were you seeing in your space downtown, the building wise, you seeing people trying to scale down the buildings? Are they changing that? Because health and safety, then there's a lot of regulation on health and safety, right? So people may have to reconfigure where the buildings are because they have to do the 2 meter apart. Were you seeing the changes coming downtown Toronto where the spaces are a little bit tight? They, where you guys do a lot of work, are they trying to change the spaces where they have to follow the health and safety, or are they trying to simply scale down the buildings because they need a smaller buildings, people working from home? What kind of changes do you see that coming down?
Well, the ability for a team to work entirely remote is great, but you do lose the connection of just talking about your random stuff that goes on in your life when you're sitting beside somebody. And that I am fueled by being in a collaborative environment. So a workshop that's like a hive of creative activity that keeps me going and motivates me and makes me want to keep doing bigger and better. And so that's been a hard thing to recreate online, which is challenging. At the beginning, we thought we couldn't see, let's say, 6 months down the road what was going to happen. All we could see is, we can plan for the next week and let's see what that brings us. If we can make it to Friday and everything's okay, then let's plan for another week. And then over time, we started, we've got longer and longer site in front of us now. But, at the beginning, we thought it was our job to solve COVID. And, everybody had the same idea. But I was like, well, this right now at the very beginning, it's a time for, first responders and medical people and leadership in the government to step up and set the course of what we need to do. We don't need to be at that point. Those people are going to hold that down. But when things open up and people have to start reinventing their workspace and seeing the fluidity between work and life and home, that's where we fit in. It's like, we can help make those things happen. We can rapidly prototype. We've got a huge catalog of work. Like I mentioned, my parents are both psychologists and social workers, so I understand the psychology of space. I work with a great team of interior and industrial and graphic designers. So, we all put our heads together and try to figure out, it's more about posing questions right now than offering solutions. I think you can't know the solution until you actually make the stuff, get it up, test it out, and see how people live in the spaces and respond to it. But yeah, it's been a challenging and interesting ride, and I don't think it's all bad. I think there's a lot of good that's going to come out of this. I think for me personally, the immediacy of things has subsided. I used to try to get as much done as I can as quick as possible, and realizing that everybody operates at their own frequency and they have their own agendas. But I'm in an industry where things that have long, some of our projects we're spec 1 or 2 years before it gets installed. So if it takes an extra week to make it happen, I get that our clients are we're usually one of the last things to go into a project, and so it's high stress, high pressure, and if there's delays, then they lose money, and there's a lot of people who are pointing fingers. So we definitely want to deliver on time, but if one of my staff says, I couldn't make this deadline, I'm sorry, I tried, I pushed, or I see it's not about to happen, I'm like, it's not a big deal. It's really put a new perspective on what's important and how hard you need to work, and how hard, obviously I want to push my team and motivate us, but you got to be, cognizant that people are going through. I always tell people to ask me how I'm doing during COVID, and my most recent answer is I'm doing medium. I'm not doing awesome. I'm not doing terrible. And it fluctuates between that every day, but everybody else is going through the same thing. So to give somebody a hard time when you don't know the full story, it's I would just rather be compassionate and understanding, but still deliver when we can and on time.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much going on with the people's life, personal life and business life, and you don't know the whole picture, what somebody's going through, and it's better to be just mindful and just be passionate about it. Good stuff. So what are your thoughts on any thoughts on that? What do you see that, it looks like that, we government announcing that in June or July, they're going to start opening some of those businesses. What are you hearing that you're hearing from your clients, that they're coming back, some of them, and ready to move on to some of the projects? What are your thoughts on that? What are you looking through the whole summer?
We're hearing a lot of things are close to being initiated. And that's nice to hear. It's kind of like my spidey senses are going off a little bit, like something good is around the corner, and I think it'll be a tidal wave of work. There's so many stakeholders now, and things have been slowed down so considerably on a lot of these projects that to see at least some life and movement and contact is good. I know you're asking about, the new workspaces and how people have to be apart from each other and those types of considerations. We thought kind of in a transitory stage that we could be making wallpaper designs that, let's say, subtly reinforce the things that you need to think about, like have stripes that are 6 feet wide so people can stand 6 feet apart. But, I think focusing on COVID primarily, especially as mentioning, some of our projects are 1 or 2 years long, just to get into them. So if we focus too much on COVID, I think we could kind of pigeonhole ourselves into being, that was done in around COVID times. But we're choosing to focus more on, like, what does the future of work look like? What does the future of retail look like? So that's a lot more of like an interior dialogue that's long term in scope, and it can address COVID related issues, but it's not stuck just around those issues. So it's being aware of it, but people are already so burnt out about hearing about COVID that to be like, we're the anti-COVID this, we're this, it just I think in 6 months or a year, people, the last thing they're going to want to hear about, but it's a lot more inspiring to think about, what does work look like now?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. Everybody's, it's been very long, that it's the length of this COVID has been very long, right? So impact on our business and life, everybody's saying, just can't wait to go, people I've been talking to, they all can't wait to go back to, work and start moving forward. Do you see that a huge amount of workload coming your way, Jonathan, from nowadays, people miss a lot of opportunities that they need to scale up very, very fast, whatever the projects out there, they need to complete those projects much faster than they were working on before. You see a huge demand from your side, or in a market that they have to speed up some of those projects very fast as soon as they come back?
I would be happy if there was a lot of projects that needed to be sped up really quickly sent our way. That would be a good spot to be in. I think people are a little bit cautious about taking risks on things when they don't know the answers. I know that we tried over this time period to introduce this new LEED certified material that it didn't appear when you compare it to, let's say, type 2 vinyl, that it was durable enough to be scrubbed and washed. And there's a need right now that we weren't, you always think you want to have the most eco product and LEED certified and all of these great characteristics and qualities. Mm-hmm. But I think we're kind of in that hierarchy of needs where the immediate need is to be able to be as clean as possible when it comes to bacteria and disease and stuff like that. So people are just looking for, we need to establish that base. And once we get that done, then over time, then they can start looking at, options that might be more LEED accredited.
Mm-hmm. Any particular industry that are more keen on your the work you guys do, or is it just across the industry based on what company you work with? Tech is big in Toronto. Any other niche that or any specific industry that are very big on what you guys do?
I would say 80% of our work comes from the States, and a significant of that comes out of New York. So it's promising and hopeful to see that there's so many vaccinations taking place, and they're talking about, not necessarily needing to wear masks anymore. So I think in, 1 to 3 months, you're going to start seeing that impact with people congregating into spaces again and getting back to work again. So that pulse coming out of the States will drive our business out of Canada. And so that's beneficial for us. Corporate offices are it's interesting because we actually were planning a huge push on satisfying the needs of corporate offices right before COVID hit. And then we're like, nobody's going to be in the office anymore. What are we going to do? How do we sell our stuff? So actually, I watched this webinar when, in the beginning of this, and it was a military guy. And he said, during a time of crisis, there's stages you go through. And one is when you're confronted by, let's say, a predator that comes up to you, you take a minute or two to kind of assess the situation. You're like, am I going to defend myself and fight this predator, or am I going to run away and protect myself and hide? And so, the first couple of months of COVID, even though it was hard to be motivated and when you're not motivated, to motivate your team is even harder. Yeah. But to be in that situation, that really drove it home for me to hear that, because I was like, well, that's exactly what we're doing, is we're assessing the situation. Because, if you're up for defending yourself against somebody you're going to lose against, then, you need that extra second or two to be like, no, I should probably get out of here. Yeah. So, it's been, there's a lot of wisdom that has come from this. And, I'm fortunate that I have a lot of business people who are in successful businesses that I can lean on and ask them what their thoughts are. There are tons of resources with webinars and stuff like that. I find I'm a little bit burnt out with, a lot of the webinars and broadcasts and stuff. And I know a lot of other people are, but, people got to produce content and they got to be engaged and they got to sort this out. And you figure out the answer to problems by talking to people. And, that's one of the benefits of doing things like these. Yeah,
that is the only way. I mean, that's the reason I started this. The whole channel was simply, hey, you making some decision, everybody trying to make a decision in the silos. How about we record how someone, you making a decision, or how you run, navigating through COVID, and somebody else can listen to it. Maybe they'll get some value out of it. But I think that is only left because there's no face-to-face anymore, right? So these recorded channels are only option for us to navigate some of those things. Okay, so very interesting. You've been doing a lot of community work, Jonathan, during this time as well. So tell us a little bit about what you've been working on. Looks like you did a lot of charity work, in your space.
Well, I would say local support more than charity. Okay. So first of all, the company Rollout that I run, we consider ourselves kind of like a record label, like I mentioned, for commercial artists. And we find people who are pushing the needle forward in the industry that they work in, and we represent their work. We translate it into something they had never thought of before, and we sell it for them. So they super appreciate that. But it's really a lot about collaboration and community. And that translates through into every aspect of my life. One tidbit about me is growing up, my mom, she stayed at home with me and my brother and sister to raise us and take care of us. But she also had a day home at the time, which was, she babysat all the kids in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So on any given day, there was 20 kids in my mom's place, and she was making crafts for them and figuring out activities to do with people. And that at a really young age got me, first of all, I'm an introverted extrovert. I draw strength from being by myself and thinking through things, but I also feed off of being around a lot of other people. And to be around all those kids, it taught me how to navigate relationships at a very young age. So, it's an interesting spot to be in. And I'm always very aware of the new communities I move into and then the people that are around. So, a couple of things we do is, one, I live in a really amazing building in downtown Toronto, and it used to be a bread factory. And they started an art committee before I moved in here, and I joined up. And, at first they were just hanging art in the front foyer, and they would change it, rotate every once in a while. And I'm like, we could do so much more than that. So, I kind of started to become a little bit of a champion for that group. And now we've done, we used to go on block crawls where we'd stop at restaurants along the way. We'd have art crawls in our building where we all have different spaces. They're all very different and unique. So everybody would open up their doors, and as a building, we would collectively go through each person's space and stop and have, some nibbles and some drinks and really get to know each other. When COVID struck though, we weren't able to see each other. Our building has 80 units and we were very highly connected. And so we said, well, why don't we try to do a group Zoom meeting? And after 5 minutes of being on Zoom with each other, we're just like, this is the dumbest thing ever. We're a wall is separating us. Why can't we just talk to each other? So we don't really have a communal space in our building. So I said, well, next Friday, rather than do this stupid Zoom meeting with an entire building, I'm like, why don't we just go stand in the laneway and loiter and drink beer? And everyone's like, that's a great idea. And so for the last year, every Friday at 7 p.m., everybody from my building, it's kind of like a drop-in. You just stop in and tell everyone how your week went. You kind of vent a little bit, you reconnect, and that physical interaction between all of us has really kept a lot of us sane. And it's the thing that we look forward to at the end of a week. It's like, we've had a good or a bad week, and you want to share that with your friends. So it's all physically distant. We have a huge laneway. But in doing that, we started talking about, all the other businesses in our neighborhood that are going through the same, not the same, but an equal amount of uncertainty. And we said, well, why don't we come together as a building and just start supporting them? So local coffee shops, local dive bars that were all closed down. We said, why don't you come by on a Friday night, bring some t-shirts and stuff that you sell at your place, and some mixed coffees and stuff like that. And I'll gather money from my building. And, to live down in this area, you have to be okay with your finances. It's not people who are struggling all that much, even though, a lot of people are struggling right now. But for everybody to chip in $20 each to help support a company, they brought us, a couple $100 worth of stuff, and they would leave here with, $500, $600, $700 worth of extra money on top of it. And that way the community in our building got to meet the community outside. And, that is, I think, especially right now, you got to lean on your friends and your neighbors. And, it's important, especially in a community and by Queen and Ossington, so Little Portugal, everything is being replaced by weed shops and Subways and Shoppers and 7-Eleven. And so the fabric of the community is changing considerably. And it's really taking the charm away from living in a space like this. So I was mentioning to you earlier, before the recording, that our little bodega around the corner, Nobrega's, they got broken into and had all their lottery scratch and win tickets stolen, all their cigarettes stolen. They had damage to their place. They had the cash register taken that had cash in it. And it's the sweetest couple that runs the spot there. And I felt so bad for them that I just started talking to people in my building and people in my laneway. And I said, I want to do my part and help them out. I'm just going to hand them a bit of money and say, I appreciate what you do for our neighborhood and what you've done. And I'm sorry you obviously feel violated being broken into. So, I want to put some positive spin on this for you. And, I just through speaking to the people in my building, I put on Facebook and a couple of community associations, we were able to the other week go over and hand them over $1,000 and say thank you for their support. And, I'm sure we could have done a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter or something and raised way more money. But I think for them to realize that it's the gesture about helping each other out. It's not the dollar total figure. It's just, the neighborhood coming together and saying these times are tough and we're all here to support each other to make sure when we bounce out of it that we're not just all weed shops and Tim Hortons, and like there's got to be some authenticity and some personality left in places like this to keep it special.
Yeah, no, that is a great work, especially times like this. Especially generosity and a little bit of initiative, helping each other. Goes a long way. It's tough, but you guys doing a great work. And also social aspect. Everybody misses social aspect. Getting together Friday. For a good chat. I think you still can catch up on a social aspect of what we're missing during this COVID.
Yeah, I think for mental health, you have to have in person and be connected in as many ways as possible. But in person is there's just you can feel the energy in the room of another person, and that's that's why it's so it's kind of depressing to go into my studio, because during lockdown we're only having one person in there at a time, just to follow the rules and be safe. But to sit in an empty office and workspace that used to be a beehive of activity, and just to be like clacking away at your computer on your own, it's sad. And I'm really looking forward to the day and time that we can, at least a handful of us can get in a room together and just start throwing ideas around and being creative again.
Mm-hmm. So what's the vision for Rollout, Jonathan? Where are you guys trying to take this business? And where are you guys, a couple of years down the road, where are you guys looking at? Where are you guys trying to achieve?
So fortunately, we during the course of COVID, we got connected with a company called Material Bank that Adam Sando he runs and owns, and they're quickly becoming kind of the Amazon for interior surfaces. And they got a hold of us and said, we've got this platform in design studios and architect firms. They usually have a materials library where you can walk in and you can tell the person who runs the library, I'm looking for, let's say, a carpet and a tile, and that has these characteristics, and they'll pull it out of the library and bring it to you so you can look at it and specify it if you like it. During COVID, materials librarians and the libraries are one of the first things to get shut down because people aren't in person anymore and they don't need that physical space. So what Material Bank has done is they flipped the way that things are handled now. And this just happened to align with COVID. They were already doing it already. It was something that was happening in the industry. But you can go on this database. You have to be vetted in first to get on. I think they have about 45,000 interior designers and architects from the top 200 North American design studios all the way down to small reputable ones. But you can go on this database of over 400 companies and select all the materials you want. They have robots that come pull all the samples and put it together in a box for you. They're located right next to the main FedEx ship hub in Memphis. So you can order up until midnight that day and you can have the materials shipped to your desk by 10:30 a.m. the next day. And it's like kind of like Uber, push a button, get a ride type of thing, right? They're shortening the time span on how these things work. And they're growing exponentially right now. They're a huge company, and we're fortunate they asked us to get involved with them. And that's, I think, the way that we're going is, to be promoted on their platform. And they've got a bunch of publications that they showcase our work in and other people's work. To have that direct line to that many designers and to be able to satisfy it remotely, it's like a win-win. It's I wouldn't say it's printing money at this point because it's like there's an investment to get off the ground, but we're automating things in a way where we can focus on our core competency, which is gathering the creatives, inspiring them, making new content, and putting it up online, and just letting people come see what the newest, hottest, freshest stuff is, and for us to be able to satisfy their wants and needs. And that's kind of the future where things are going. I think, everybody right now, like I mentioned, I think at least 60% of jobs are on hold and they're still unsure of what's happening. But I would almost bet by, mid-September of this year that it's a tsunami of work, that people are just like, let's get back at it. And, things have been on, let's get these spider webs off of things and move the back burner to the front burner and let's go full speed ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from a lot of business leaders I'm talking to. The same thing, August, September, they're looking at simply speed up. They're planning how they're gonna, manage some of that, sudden growth in a business. They're all trying to find, what do I need to do now so I can be ready for September, August, in this year.
Yeah, and that's we've been trying to strategically gather our content and readjust our I mentioned we were trying to launch stuff for commercial interiors before COVID. So we've done all the work already. We were ready to like push the trigger or pull the trigger. But now it's just like, okay, let's just revise what we're doing, get our messaging down, try to get all of our content up online as we can. And then September, I think, it's interesting because people haven't worked for so long that usually July and August are very slow in our industry. But because people have been not working for so long, I'm wondering if things loosen, that people, rather than going to a cottage or traveling, which is impossible now almost in Ontario, if they're like, well, no, I want to get to work. I don't care if it's summertime. I just want to be productive and then get some things done. So it's interesting, but definitely mid-September, I see that as being kind of the next step into being positive and proactive into the future.
Now, you guys do a lot of complex work, Jonathan. What can, a business leader who planning for, August, September, or they're planning later on this year, they got to scale up. Can they do something now to prepare? If they're looking to interior design or they're looking to take on a work like, project work, what you guys do, can they do something now to prepare themselves so when the time comes, they can, scale up very fast instead of slowing down? Could there be something done, some of the design work they could do now and get ready, or they just have to wait for that time when it comes?
I always tell people that nothing is fast in the large format game.
Yeah.
Everything it creeps slowly. And one thing I've learned, and it's been difficult, and it's even, been challenging for my crew for me to say it, is, sometimes you just got to slow it down, take your foot off the gas, and, it can't just be full speed. There's times where, I prefer to work around the clock for a week straight and just get as much accomplished as possible. But, sometimes there's a lot of elements that don't make that possible. It's challenging, especially for the larger projects, because there's so many stakeholders that are involved. That you have like the designer, the specifier, the purchaser. So to light a fire under them, that's I would say that I don't know if I have an answer on how they could speed things up. I think it's all dependent on getting back to work. People, like I mentioned, people getting vaccinated in the States, that I would say in 1 to 3 months, that's probably going to be one of the biggest drivers. Is people are like, okay, now that we can be together, let's talk about how does our workspace work for more than a handful of people.
Very interesting. Good stuff. I learned so much about your space during our discussion. Where can people find you, Jonathan, if they want to have a discussion with you? Where can they connect with you? Where can they find you?
7 p.m. in my laneway every Friday.
Right for your building.
Through our website, rollout.ca. I'm on Instagram as John Rollout, JONROLLOUT, or at Rollout is another way. Go on my website, give me a call, email me. I'm up for discussions about interiors all the time. We do workshops on kind of the future of wallpaper and the future of work, just to kind of see how collectively us as a creative team can come up with solutions for things. So I would be more than happy to talk to people about stuff like that. I think it takes those types of conversations in order to change the industry. And we're going through a transition right now where we're diving into the unknown. I heard the analogy about jumping out of an airplane without a parachute and figuring it out along the way. I think me and my team, we're like that. We're happy to be at the forefront of things and, diving out of airplanes and coming up with ideas along the way and seeing how they work. And so, people who are interested in that dialogue, I'm here for them.
Yeah, definitely your passion comes through, your work, I say, your website, all that different design work you guys do. It comes across that you guys are really passionate about what you guys do. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for time, Jonathan.
I appreciate it. It's nice talking to you.
Okay, likewise. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.